During the 16 Days of Action 2022 campaign,
Ghosts of Girls on Fire and Tech Shack Tactical TV interview ordinary but outstanding women.
Hashtag I am every woman.
In our interviews, we honor outstanding businesswomen who have made a difference in their specific sphere of society to ladies who have overcome horrific gender-based violence incidences.
We believe in action, not activism.
Why are women continually cast as helpless victims?
Bystanders to their own fate, presuming that victimhood is a fait accompli. We are not simply deer in the headlights of gender-based violence.
We can and will stand up for ourselves.
We are not second-class citizens who need special days and men standing up for us.
We say no more.
Activism does not change the minds of predators.
Predators will always be predators, waiting in the dark to claim their victims. Standing on street corners with placards saying that we are against gender-based violence has and never alone make a difference. Take action now, not to be a victim, and be a strong woman. Do not put your trust in anybody else except yourself. Take the example from the strong women in these interviews and be a warrior. Hashtag victim no longer.
Minute Oxley here for Tech Shack Tactical TV and Ghosts of Girls on Fire as part of our 16 Days of Action for 2022. I'm here with Angelique McAdam.
That's correct.
A very interesting lady, author, and I just looked at some of the other organizations that you've been involved in. Obviously a very, very strong, amazing woman. Thank you very much for talking to us. You're in your home.
Pleasure. Thank you so much for coming through, and you are more than welcome.
So tell me a little bit about you, your story.
My story?
You can talk for a very long time because I can see she's the author of Celebrating the Void. She can talk a little bit about it, but we'll go into more detail at a later interview on this as well. But please tell us who you are, where you come from, and why we're interviewing as a strong woman.
Well, I hope I'm a strong woman. I think I am. Well, according to my psychometric tests, I believe I actually am quite not a bad person. As we are currently going through adopting my little daughter, so we had to go through the psychometric testing, it's so forth. So it's very fresh. Okay, so it wasn't a long time ago in the 80s. But yes, I am Angelique McAdam. I'm a divorced lady, and I have 3 beautiful children. The one son is 22 years old, the other son is 17 years old, and my little girl is 11 years old. So I'm a very proud mom and absolutely adore kids. So that's hence the fact that I am the chairperson for Child Welfare Gauteng province. I also sit on the National Board for Child Welfare. I started Magaliesburg Child Welfare because there wasn't a child welfare organization there to assist the kids, and always been involved with saving kids, being participative in children's lives, as children are my passion. As somebody needs to stand up for them, somebody needs to stand up for their rights and have a voice. Albeit a child that is male or female, that doesn't matter. There is a need for that. Mm-hmm. So from a child welfare perspective, from my side, is there's as the reason why I'm also part of the governing side is to ensure that governance is properly implemented within a non-profit organization. Hence the fact that I do non-profit consulting as well, assist other non-profits to also ensure that their governance are right and correct so that they can also excel within the non-profit organization and environment. I was actually asked yesterday by my daughter, what is the difference between a non-profit and a for-profit organization? And I said to her, my darling, when you make profit, you're there to make money. Absolutely. But when you're a non-profit organization, you are there because of your passion, your heart, and the change and the difference you want to make in people's lives.
Absolutely, and that's why I do Ghosts of Girls on Fire. It's also a non-profit, and it's about passion. It's not about money.
Absolutely. Okay, so non-profits for me is absolutely a passion as well. So, there's a lot of community-based organizations, and it really is people that see and live in the communities and see the needs and requirements. But they don't necessarily have that administrative skill. So what do? A person that is an administrator and work with documents all the time, they don't have the need and the passion. So you need a combination of both. And hence the fact that non-profits to me is an absolute passion as well. So from that perspective, that is also what I do. Yes, I'm a counselor of children, of marriage, as well as HIV and AIDS. I'm an auxiliary social worker because I work in the social work field. To me, it is what a lot of people don't understand is what a social worker means. The moment you say social worker, they think they're coming to criticize you and they're coming to take away your child. It is not what a social worker is. Social workers are actually way more skilled and educated than a lot of the lawyers are. Not being criticizing lawyers at all, please don't get me wrong, but they are skilled in not only the field of taking away children as people would perceive them. They are skilled in program development, community development, statutory work, and there is also a governance aspect to what they do. So the field of social work is so diverse that a lot of people don't understand what social work really means. And for me to be in the field that I'm in and working with social workers, it was imperative for me to also study what they do. Hence the fact that I'm still a student, always will be a student, because I also love research and study and so forth. So hence the fact that my accreditations, I'm starting to scroll it out like that. It's like, whenever I find something, I start and then I get a diploma in it because I need to feel that I'm empowered. So, and it's also part of my empowerment because, and then also the situation, how people are. What are you qualified? How are you qualified enough to tell me what to do? How people are. So I am qualified to tell you how to save a child, yes. So that's why I'm now in my last year of social work degree so that I can actually also become a fully qualified social worker. But I am an auxiliary social worker. The other issue, and that's one of those things that the moment I decided to get divorced, I looked across all the fields and so forth, and I thought to myself, you know what? The only thing that I want, just because I'm not getting along with my husband and him and I do not have that relationship, my children are key to me, that they can continue and they can go forward. And when I started looking at the laws and the legalities and so forth, when it gets to children and how do children cope during divorce, after divorce, before divorce, all of those things, there is such little emphasis placed on parenting plans, in making sure that your child is the one that you are focused on. Because you two adults will always be the mother and the father. Doesn't matter what happens. And the child has to have a relationship with the mother and with the father. And where a lot of people misinterpret divorces, they don't realize that the moment that little child is born, it has more rights than the mother and the father. So, and that's why I decided I'm going to become a mediator. So I studied mediation, and I'm a qualified mediator, because for me it was dragging out the components to make 100%, actually 250% sure that my children come first. and that my parenting plan is right, and all of those. And if I had to pay somebody else to do it, I promise you, all that money would have gone into some other person's pocket instead of investment into my own kids' education. And that is, and even when I do work with other divorcees and people, my passion is the children. I don't take on cases where there are not children involved. Because a lot of people keep on battling about the money. It's not your money. Hello? It's the children's money. That child has got access to mother's money and to father's money. You know, a lot of times I also say is, the moment your sperm doesn't mean that you're a good father.
No, it doesn't. It doesn't
Your egg doesn't mean that you're a good mother. At the end of the day, that is what people need to realize. So I became a mediator. I did my own divorce, and it cost me a whole 175 rands. And you know what? 7 years later, I have a brilliant relationship with the dad. We get along very well. We have an open relationship when it gets to the children. Why? Because we didn't fight about the money. And there was no issues when we spoke, because our focus was our children, nothing else. So that was actually quite nice, and that's when I became a mediator.
So tell me, what brought you to this, to the place that you are now? Your book, it's your own story. What makes you so passionate about what you're doing? It's your history must be coming into it.
Oh, absolutely. The passion that I actually got was from being a young little girl. That, you know, you don't, and it's a fact that a child never really understands or kind of puts 1 and 1 together or 2 and 2 together until they're the age of 5. Okay. Then those strange things come together, and only later on, when you become a little bit more mature and an adult, you start realizing, excuse me, lifting my dress for somebody,
It's not all right.
it's not okay. I don't care how old I was, you know, lifting my dress for somebody. And then there's these little things. Why don't I like a lazy boy? I crawl for a lazy boy. I also have this thing about, you know, I didn't know what it was, but wee wee in my hand. Why is that so strange? So that was one of the things. Eventually, you know, with psychology and doing counseling and all of those things that came to me, and I thought, Angelique, you were actually a molested little girl.
When did it? Only later, when you were an adult?
Yes, well, you know, because you don't realize it when you're a little girl. Okay. And then of course, when you go to your mom, your dad, or somebody like that, and they say to them, please, I don't want to kiss that person. I don't want to be close to that person, or whatever. And me being raised Afrikaans and being raised in South Africa, what do? Kom gee vir ouma 'n strukkie, kom sien vir oom. That's what we do.
We're very much in a Mediterranean style where people hug and kiss and stuff like that.
Exactly.
And sometimes, most of the time it's okay, but sometimes it's not.
No, it's not. So and when a child says to mom, I feel uncomfortable, I don't want to do it, I don't like that uncle, I don't like that priest, I don't like that, because yes, I was raised in the old apostolic church, which also brought, and it's not because of the religion, but we were always at church.
And we were always told
7
to
days a week.
respect older people as an Afrikaans growing
Absolutely.
up. So, you know, you don't say no to an older person. And it's very much, I've had a discussion with somebody in the black community, and it's exactly the same. You know, they say, look up to your elders.
Yes.
And
you do not question them.
You do not question them, and that is where,
and especially when they're Muruti,
start taking place.
Especially when you're a Muruti, you do not question that. You don't question them as an adult. You don't question them as a child, and you don't. Well, as a child, it's no zone. But that is what happened to me, is I was actually molested as a child. And you'd only realize that much later. And I mean, if you say that, you go, even if you go to Oma and say, I don't want to, no, not that one, no, anybody else, but not that one, maybe that one, or maybe that auntie, or maybe this, but definitely not that. It's a high person in the church. It's a recognized person in the mines. It's, all of those things. There is, that person will never do that. They then have children of their own. Or the best grandfather. Or the best whatever. Remember, a perpetrator has a target. It's like you in shooting. You shoot for a target. So, and it's the same as, and a lot of the kids that I also counsel as well, they don't understand why that person targeted them and not, because they, there's 4 friends, for example, they're all together. Or there's brothers and sisters and they're all together. Why? Me.
And why do they target certain people?
There is
Have you been able to
liking. It's the same as you didn't marry 6 men, did you?
Yeah.
You fell in love with 1 man. So there's this little persona, whether it's a psychological, what do you call it? Tinder.
Yeah.
You're going to swipe right on someone's face, aren't you? And swipe left on the other person's face. That's what happens. So there is definitely,
there's a type. It's the same if you want to go into profiling. There's a type that will attract a certain person or that perpetrator.
Exactly. So they have a certain look that they like, or a certain which would probably, I assume, and I'm not a profiler, please don't get me, let's not go there. But my thing is, either they like the look, or the personality, or the build, or the way she moves, or he moves, you understand? And that they either relate or hate. It's either, I also can't fathom. It's just not in my makeup to understand why people do it.
Maybe also they can have a look at, can I get this person alone? What is the situation? So firstly, maybe they're attracted to that person in a certain way, and then can I make them my victim?
Exactly.
And will I be successful with that?
Yes. So it started there. The wonderful other thing is that my mother had a creche. She was also the first day mother in Randburg, actually. And she worked very closely with the welfare in Randburg. So a lot of the cases, or the children that came through to us, and she started the creche when I was in grade 1. Some of the kids that came through at that stage were welfare related cases. So, and there was, people that were participating in adults that were having substance abuse issues, that we would have to fetch these little babies and kids like 1-2 o'clock in the middle of the morning, where we would get a phone call, because what my mom did is on her toweling nappies, it was towel nappies back in the day, it wasn't the lovely
the huggies or whatever exactly.
So on the towel nappy she would write her telephone number, our landline. Okay, and I remember it so well, 888-3118. So that was what our number was on everything. And then we would get she would get a phone call, because that's all they found on this baby or this child that's like 18 months old, strolling down the road, finding them. Or sometimes the kid would just be dropped off somewhere, or the father would sit at the pub and the kid would be lying asleep under the seat. He's getting drunk, and then he gets into the car because he's obviously met a pop in the pub, and the kid would be left behind. So, and he forgets, or the mom actually. There was many situations like that. So And that was one of it, but my one that really, really got me was little Peachy. Little Peachy was this little girl. There was two actually. Peachy was this little 18-month old girl. The mom was also, they were living in very bad situations, circumstances. And Peachy was then the welfare tried to find the father. And then found the father. Father happened to be very wealthy. The mother was struggling. And they went back, and it ended up that they severely burnt this child. And there was a strange hole in her back. So I saw, as a little girl, her photograph when she was lying in the morgue. That was the one. And then the other one was, I'm not going to mention the names because they probably still have the same names, but it was a little boy and a little girl where the mom was a prostitute. And the little boy and girl was obviously exposed to it. So this boy, at the age of 4, we couldn't leave him alone anywhere because he would play with the other kids, put his fingers up or whatever the case might be. So that was one of the situations. And then I myself, because also in those days, remember we used to be able to work when we were 13, not work, but be a packer or whatever, holiday work, because pocket money wasn't the norm. You had to do chores and work for it, and then I had a holiday job. I worked for a glass company, a glazing company, and did their filing for them, etc. And my filing was then done over there, and the other person across the road that did window tinting came through, and I'm not allowed to say this because I've been I've got these threats to say that I'm not allowed to mention the person's name because defamation of character or whatever, but I know who he is, he knows who he is. It's in my book. I've opened a case, which I'm actually very proud of. So I was 15 at the stage, and worked holiday work over December for him, and also did his phone, answering phones, did his filing, all of those things. And then the one day he said to me, he needs to go to a meeting in Pretoria, and he would like me to go with, because there's not really much work that I need to do. So he said, come with me. Okay. I phoned my mom, because in those days, landlines, fling, fling, fling. Phoned mom, and I said, Mom, the boss asked me to go with to Pretoria. And those days
it was all right.
It was okay.
You were not worried about it.
It's my boss.
Yeah.
And I've worked there for, across the road and whatever. And it actually also used to, because my dad was also a lovely philanthropist. I used to call him a philanthropist because he kept a lot of women busy and happy. So he actually had an affair with the receptionist or the secretary of my dad. So there was this friendship relationship. So it wasn't like a question mark, where Angelique was going. So I went through, and I thought, I'm sure I've been to Pretoria before with my parents. This is not the right road. And he said to me, no, we need to just he wanted to just check something at Hartbeespoort. Okay. So instead he pulled over at the, what do you call it? Not the go-karts. Listen to me, I'm a real boy.
Those, goes up the mountain.
Yes, that thing yes, now. Yes. What is it called? Cable car.
Cable car. Yes, now we both.
Okay. There we go. So we went. He took me into the cable cars. As we were like halfway up, he said to me, "Do I want a drag of his joint?" Well, I don't know. It was joint at that stage, but I just said no. And then we came down, and I said to him, "Listen, we need to, what happened to the meeting in Pretoria, And he said, oh no, he forgot to tell me it was cancelled. So I said to him,
no cell phones, and no cell phones, it was cancelled before you left, so obviously. There was no meeting.
There was no meeting. He obviously pre-planned, premeditated this whole thing. And then he said to me that we needed to, he just wanted to show me, because he bought a property close to Harapiyespu Dam. He wanted to go and show me this farm. So we drove off, and I lived there recently in Magaliesburg, so every time and it took me a while to take that route again, not gonna lie, okay? Because I avoided Harapiyespu Dam
For a long time. No, or since you haven't been back. Okay.
Yes. And my book was actually what gave me the courage to go to Harapiyespu Dam again. So if you want to know, Harapiyespu Dam has always been a problem for me. Same as Blegari's been a problem for me. Because it was on the corner of Blegari Road and Gordon Avenue is where the offices were. So he took me into the side road, and it was turned into a dirt road, and then he stopped in the middle of nowhere and he said to me, "Get out, I want to show you the area." So I'm like, okay. And from there he pushed me down and on the bonnet, and then tried to pull my panties down and get in, and I pushed him away and tried to jump in the car. Where do I go?
There's nowhere to go.
And then he tried to strap me down. He strapped me down with the safety belt, pushed me down, and then he was on top of me and he started raping me. And then where do I go? Push, push, push. Tried to do that, and then he tried to do all kinds of things, tried to put his penis in my mouth, went on and on and on and on. We're talking a married man as well. So with children. I've been to his house. I was invited there for a braai. I knew his brother. I knew everybody. So it's not somebody I didn't know, and he didn't stop. Eventually it became dark and I screamed and cried or whatever. It's all what I remember. It's clear because you relive these things. And when I wrote my book, and I had to also when I laid the charges, I had to revisit each and every step of what had happened to me, which I tried to avoid for many years in my life. And then there was, he drove us back to Blegari, to where the offices were, and my handbag and everything was there, so I had to go in, and that's when I grabbed my handbag, phoned my mom because it was dark already. She said, "I'm on my way home." My biggest fear was, what are my parents going to think of me? That was my biggest fear. I'm going to get into trouble with my parents. And what this man had sex with me, so now what am I doing? You feel like you're the guilty one. What have I done wrong? Mm-hmm. So then as I walked into the offices, I turned around, phoned my mom, and as I turned around, he pushed me down again. By then he had his pants down and he forced his penis in my mouth, and he just kept going until he came in my mouth, and I had to, ran to the bathroom and vomited. So then I tried to get away, went to, he said no, he'll drop me off, and then I jumped out of the car and I just ran and jumped over the gate and ran and I just sat in the shower and just scrubbed and scrubbed and scrubbed and scrubbed and scrubbed until it was just one, and then the next day my dad asked me to, if I wanted to go back to work, and he said, "Come when you're late, we've got to go back to work." And I saw when I got dressed, I was blue everywhere. Now how do I explain this to my father. Why am I blue? Why was I late? I was with an older man. So that is what happened. Yes, I was raped.
When did you ever make a case against him? Only recently? Or did you tell your parents right away?
No. Are you completely? My father just, he would have killed me. He would have killed me. And it actually so happened that was in December. And then later on, there was, I had friends and so forth. And there was I wrote a note and left it on one of the friends' cars to say that we were at their place, but they must meet us at my house. And it was misinterpreted because the man's girlfriend found it and thought that, I wrote, meantime I was with other people. So they came through to my house and my father just sat me down. He called me the biggest slut and whore and whatever, and went on and on and on, and it was just like, and it was months late, just within a few months later, and he just went off and off and off as to, and he said to me, I saw the marks in your body and so forth.
So he knew and he did nothing.
And then
makes me very angry.
My mom, I don't know if it was fortunate or unfortunate, but she just had her knee operation, so she had just got all her tablets, prescribed medicine.
So she was a bit out of it. Or
no, she was fine, but there was tablets in the.
Okay, now I get it.
So my father was an electrician, so the first thoughts is, slash your wrists. And I never knew that an electrician could have such blunt empty knives.
Well, lucky.
I tried and there was nothing, it was so blunt. And then I went to my mom's room and I started swallowing all her tablets. And I just went on and on and on and swallowed. And I was so, I just, angry. I don't know what I was, but I just know I just swallowed and swallowed and swallowed. And we had a passage, and I thought, okay, and you've swallowed enough. I'm sure you can go to sleep now. Nobody will know that you've done this. Just that because I was a tiny girl, I've always been very small, very thin. We used to do 40-hour famines. I don't know if you remember that.
No, I never did that.
Okay.
I wouldn't survive.
I did the 40-hour famines because I never wanted to be fat in my life. So it was very important to me to be extremely thin. So
another thing that society tries and forces onto girls.
Oh, absolutely. In those days, we all had to be scope models. I mean, not scope models, not scope. No, not scope.
Not scope.
Not scope. What was it? Our magazine models. You had to be perfect. And I did modeling, so I wanted to be a ramp model. But there was no ways I could be there because I was too short. But in any way, I passed out on the way to my bedroom. And my mom found me, and she had her, her leg was in plaster cast. She found me on the floor, and there's one thing that I recalled was, as I was in between my conscious and
going in and
out, I just heard my dad say, "Let her die." What is his famous words was, ek sal haar liewer te dood sien as wat ek haar in die gutter sien. Sy's 'n hoer. That was what I remember.
Okay.
So then my mom took me through to JG Straydom back in the day. We finally, all I remember is waking up with this hosepipe, vomiting. So they were pumping my stomach. And then I can't recall anything until I was in the psychiatric ward. Ward 4 was where it was. I woke up
You were
there.
15, 16 still.
We are 40.
40.
I just turned 50.
15, okay.
Just turned 50. So I was in the psychiatric ward, woke up there. And yes, I think if it wasn't for that, and if it wasn't for my wonderful, and may his soul rest in peace, Gerrit Geldenhuys was my psychologist at that stage, that pulled me through and gave me, you know, the power and the strength, and my wonderful mother that actually pulled me through as well. And it was one night that one of the patients there, one of the men said, you know, if only I could have a day back to say sorry to my dad for disappointing him. So I phoned my father and I said to him, Dad, I'm sorry. I'm sorry I disappointed you, because my dad didn't want anything to do with anything. He got into the car and fetched me. And he said, now that you know, you should be sorry for what happened. And since then, I never spoke about it because it was my fault. Only to find out a little bit later that, I had gonorrhea from this man. Didn't know. So to go to the gynecologist for the first time, and I was like a young little girl, we didn't do those things.
No, we didn't.
It wasn't like today where we take our little girls and we teach them all of that stuff. My education was a book called Wat Meisies Wil Weet van Dr. Marie Jansen. That's my education on being a woman. Understanding my
So when
period.
did your healing start, Angelique?
You know,
And do you still have contact with your dad, or?
my father passed away.
But did you ever?
And I buried him. I went through and I buried him. And I tried many times. I eventually told my parents when I was 23. I came forward and I said to them, you know, remember what happened? That is what happened. My father was then going to box and kill and skit and donor as they must do, you know, and it was
too
and I
late.
just said to him, what value? What
It's too
purpose?
late.
I said, you're going to sit in jail and this person is going to get away. So I said to him, okay, it's going to be my battle. And I continued with, you know, because of the gonorrhea and all of that, it damaged my internals. I had to go for a full hysterectomy. I can't have children naturally. That's why my one son is an IVF, the other two are adopted. You know, I didn't stop. I wasn't going to let this have the better of me. So, and also part of my healing was working with children and, you know, doing what I do is for child welfare, you know, being a counselor and standing up for these little kids, fighting for them to say, and having social
You've got a voice and a choice.
Absolutely, and it helps me. It helped me so much to heal within myself. Every time that I could stand there and stand up for that little kid that was raped.
Because it's not easy.
That was
It must
molested.
but it
That
must have an
was-
influence on you as a person. It's not easy to do what you're doing.
It does have an influence. It does have a serious impact. I'm not going to lie, you know, and and I think my book was one of the biggest healing.
We will definitely, I'm going to read your book and I'm definitely going to speak to you
So
again.
there's quite a lot of things, and yes, I love what I do. And I will
I'm
always
definitely
do
going
what
to
I do.
have a follow-up interview, but what is your message to the children and the women out there? What is your message for this day, or the 16 days of what I call action going forward? What is your message?
16 days of action going forward is just speak out. Speak out. There is nothing, and it's not your fault. When you are feeling uncomfortable, whether you're a boy, whether you're a girl, whether it is your mother doing it to you, whether it's your father doing it to you, women, also are perpetrators, as men are perpetrators. They also do these things. And it's not always just physical abuse.
No.
A lot of the times it's mental abuse. A lot of the times it is that situation where you think those words, if the words don't make you feel comfortable, you say it. You have a voice. Everybody has a voice, and you need to make it heard. And that is what it is, as little as you are. If you feel you can't speak, draw a picture and give it to someone you trust. If you feel that you cannot say those words, a photograph, a picture, a little letter goes miles. Make sure you can hand it to somebody. There is someone you trust.
I'm a girl on fire. I'm not a victim. A girl on fire. I'll stand my ground. Girl on fire. I've made a choice. I stand proud. I'm a girl on fire. I'm a mother, a daughter, a sister, a friend. I'm every woman. I have taken up arms and I choose to defend all that I hold dear. Independent and strong, you will not keep me down. You can't break me. I'm a girl on fire. I'm not a victim. A girl on fire. I'll stand my ground. Girl on fire. I've made a choice. I stand proud. Countless hours on the range, I am responsibly armed. I am your equal. I've empowered myself. I have practiced and trained. Fear won't control me. With my sisters in arms, we will make ourselves heard. We'll stand together. I'm a girl on fire. I'm not a victim. A girl on fire. I'll stand my